All right, great. Thanks for inviting me to come and join you guys today. A couple of projects, as you guys know, in the activities office, we always have projects going on. A lot of the things that we do, Lori and I, are unseen because they're kind of behind the scenes, and as far as setup, scheduling, documentation, um, following through with regulations and legislations and documenting things like that. So, um, you know, it's not just standing around watching games. So, there are a lot of logistical things that we have to take care of to make sure that our teams are able to play and that our kids have opportunities. So, and it's not just sports. A lot of people think about athletics and sports, but it's also the activities. It's our clubs, it's our groups, what we can do outside of school, extracurricular wise, to showcase you guys as an extension of your education. So, a couple of the projects that we have going on right now, one that's pretty extensive that we started, you probably walk past it about every day. Excuse me, in the activities entrance is our Touch Pro system, our online digital Hall of Fame. And when you guys were eighth graders and freshmen, probably, is when we invested the Booster Club in that program, and we were able to get that. The big thing was, in a lot of schools, and if you remember when you were younger, in our athletics wing, we had all those all-state pictures that were framed. Well, at some point you run out of room, and a lot of them were, parents and grandparents that were up there too. So we felt like we needed to be a little bit more useful with our space and not have it looked as cluttered and dated. And so we took all of those pictures down, which every time you change something, that's hard for a lot of people. But we scan those and document and work with the company to have those uploaded into that Touch Pro system. And so moving forward, any Hall of Famer that we have in documentation as far as groups or honors and stuff, we want going into that. There's a backside to it that's a website. So that's one of the things that we've tried to get out that nobody really knows is it can be accessed from anywhere. It's on a website. So, if you have grandparents that are out of state or whatever, they can access it and see it. So, Lori and I try to keep it running as best as we can, up to date wise. You can see sometimes, we get pictures up. It's hard to access it when you've got construction and stuff going around there. But it's a showpiece for us to be able to have that and show kind of Boone history with athletics and activities. Another reason why we got that is, we celebrate athletics a lot. We need to also have a place where we celebrate our activities. And we just haven't gotten to the point of getting there yet to be able to provide that celebration for those programs as well. We just got things rolling and ready to go with that, and then pandemic hits, and then we have other priorities, and there's always another project and a new thing. So we really need to build some capacity and working with that on the backside. You also, as we go, we had trophies in that trophy case that was really cluttered and overblown from like 50 years ago, and every single plaque and trophy, whether it's a state qualifier trophy or it's something that is a plaque from third place at the Nevada cross country meet, so we really had to go through, and at some point you got to make a decision. Do you keep it? How do you document it? Do you throw it away? Do you give it to somebody or whatever? Because you only have so much space. So we tried to thin that out as much as we can, and we decided that those were important things that you can't just give away or throw away. So we started taking pictures of each one of them to document it. So when you go back and look at certain years, then you can go back and see those trophies that were earned from each team. And so I know Maggie was a part of that too. Last year we started having students document and take photos of those trophies so that, we can make some space and still have those there so when graduates come back they can see that or wonder, well, what happened to this? I remember our softball team won the Roll and Story tournament. Where's that trophy at? Well, we don't technically have it tangibly, but it's documented on there and will be on our website and it is accessible. So we're looking for kids to help us continue that because we still have a long way to go. And it's, again, going back and documenting history of Boone athletics and Boone activities. And so, it's we started with the trophies because those are things that we got to find a place for. Then we move towards the documentation of achievements in different years in different sports and athletics. We also want to branch out and start documenting, our groups of National Honor Society or All-State Speech and things like that. So we really need some people to, work with our fine arts department and start coming up with lists and pictures that we can help document those as an extension of yearbooks to be able to do that. So that's kind of a multimedia thing. And again, maybe you'll have a little bit more of a realization and respect for that console when you walk past next time, because that holds a lot of history of Boone achievement in the past and people that have been in part of things long before you were. But, we needed to condense that space knowing what was coming on the horizon. And so being able to have that all in one place and accessible for everybody. It's a change, it's a culture shock, but we're utilizing technology to our benefit because there's only so much space that we have. So help with that would be amazing. That's one project that is done behind the scenes, and it's called the Touch Pros system. So we try to update it with pictures every year and every season. But again, it's more than what Lori and I can do on our own. So we've had volunteers, we've had former coaches that have documented things, and if you go and look through it, there's a lot of space, open space, that we need to fill in, and it's going to take a lot of time to do that. So does anybody have any questions? Okay. Yeah. I can go on to the other one too. Another thing that we are looking at doing as an extension of our activities is, there's a few things, but one of them is to try to build some internal capacity and leadership. As far as an advisory council, we're still a little ways away from that, but one of the things that I know Mrs. Hyman and I had discussed, along with Mr. McPartland, is to create opportunities as athletic ambassadors, because a lot of times when we have meets or competitions, it isn't always just one team. Sometimes we have multiple teams, and sometimes that's a lot of scrambling around for me or the site manager or Lori to try to get everything coordinated. So for those of you that may have an interest in being involved in athletics in the future, not only as a coach but as an administrator, and have interest in multiple sports, maybe if you're in an off season or something, if you're not playing a winter sport or spring sport, helping with coordination of those events is really important, because there's a lot that goes into it, as far as greeting officials, making sure the other school knows where to go, their locker room, some of the information and logistical things as far as timeline, what happens when, setup, tear down. There's a lot of things, and you can always utilize help. And so there's some of the behind the scenes things that we're talking about, being able to help out with and understand a little bit about what goes into creating an event, but also that kind of that outgoing, welcoming atmosphere. That's an extension. And then one of the things that I hope you as students understand is, when we have events or when we're hoping events, or I'm not always clapping and cheering for you all. That doesn't mean that I don't want you to be successful. Internally, I am cheering, and I really want you all to win the game and compete and at a high level and do well. I always have to be the one that kind of holds a nonpartisan perspective. I have to be there in case there are issues with coaches, students. I have to be there to support the officials if something happens. So I really have to kind of keep a neutral perspective on things when it happens. It doesn't mean that I don't internally celebrate when we win or when you guys do well. But that's one of those perspectives, is you have to really keep things in line and understand what the true purpose is. And so kind of seeing things from that angle is important. Before a game even happens, like we play Ballard tomorrow night for football, I've already been in communication with their AD starting last week as far as timeline, where I meet their team, what the schedule is, when they can have warm-ups, how they can get back up to the school for showers, who's going to meet them, what sideline they're on. So, he and I have a good working relationship. It's not always like Bombers versus Toreadors. It's not always a contentious competition. Yeah, sure, we want to play well and we want to stick it to them when we can. But again, it's more than just the game too, and sometimes you have to coordinate those things. So anybody interested in that, in learning about it, that's something that we'll talk about. But again, that you're going to have to be an extension of us too, and that help is always needed to have those sort of ambassadors for our programs. Any questions related to that? Ms. Hyman, anything else you wanted to add with that? Just talked about the ambassador situation, yeah, and what we're looking for and what's it about. And I kind of gave them a little bit of an idea that, the setup of events and the greeting of teams and officials, and how in my role, and I'm not jumping and cheering and clapping all the time because of having to take a neutral perspective because of what could happen. Mm-hmm. And so, and to keep things moving smoothly. So, just so that they have kind of a little understanding of, and we talked about setup and background and those sort of things. I didn't know if there was anything else in addition.
Just working with the officials would be another component. And for this kind of thing, because this is a project, but it would be, it would go through an interview process. I'm sure you mentioned that. And then there are other things that go into production of events that you could learn about, like the screen that's going to go up on the wall to see all the things that go into that component. So this could go along a lot of different ways for different students. And then the other project is, there's plenty to do in that one as well. So
yeah, and a lot of times in our events we have several volunteers that you don't even see. Like for football, people on the sideline, we have chain gang, we have not only the officials but also people up in the press box that run the scoreboard, radio, play-by-play, things like that. So it's really taking care of those people and making sure that they feel comfortable and welcome. Whether it's getting them something to drink from the concession stand, making sure they have something to eat afterwards, and just being that point person to go to if they have questions or so they know what's going on. That's the big thing. And it kind of, after you do that, it makes you have a little bit more respect for what they go through as officials. Like, yeah, they get compensated well, but they have to deal with a lot of things. And so, they're really not here to screw anybody or to pick sides or anything. They're trying to do the job to the best of their ability. Do they make mistakes? Yeah, we're all human. And so getting to know them as a person that has family, that has another job, but they're here to help, put on an event for you, it really puts a lot in perspective. And, obviously, and I'm just like it, it's easy to criticize and get frustrated, but a lot of things are out of their hands, too, to keep in mind.
Any questions, you guys? Did you mention that this could be something that goes on scholarships and resumes?
I did not.
So the other part about this is that if you can put down that you were almost an intern or part of the sports ambassadors crew for an athletic director, that goes a very long way in applications for scholarships and or applications to colleges. And if you want to be a student athlete, that looks very good because that shows you can work with a lot of adults, which is what coaches are looking for. So just keep that in mind. All right.
Is that it? You sure you don't have any questions? This is your opportunity to ask things that maybe you're going through your mind, or what do I do and why I do what I do and why I act the way that I do. Why I get grumpy with you guys sometimes.
All right.
All right. No, we can talk about that later. All right.